Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Valen, and this is Create. That's right, there's been a major update, and I'm going to be taking you through the basics on how you can get started in Create, how to understand some of the new mechanics in it, some of the things that have changed, and what you could actually hope to accomplish by using this mod. I realize that is quite a lot to handle, and so therefore I'm going to try and do this as best I can in as delicate a manner as I can. Let's imagine, shall you, that nobody has seen the previous Create videos that I made before. That was on version, I think, 1.1 or something, and this is version like, or 0.1 or something. This is 0.2 beta, but it's still, there's so much in here. It is amazingly jam-packed with goodies. Let me first tell you the things that you can use to make or what you can use this mod for. You can use it to automate just about any kind of vanilla Minecraft device you want in ways that you'd never before had imagined, that will just make you kind of like, I don't know, just drool on the floor. It's just amazing the things that you have access to in this. It also can eclipse some of the modded Minecraft mods out there with their production values, or at the very least, how really cool it is to create some massive chain network of things working to, well, in this case, you know, just create some kind of outcome that you are looking to accomplish. This is the most basic you can possibly get. But if you haven't already seen some of the videos that are out there, the teaser trailer, I'll have a link for the description, or down in the description below, so check out the doobly-doo and click that to check it out. Simi did a really good job with the crew on that, and yeah, let's get started on the things that you need to know. First and foremost, there is World Gen. There's more than there was before, so keep that in mind. There are new stones, there are new ores, and there are just a whole bunch of new aesthetic options. To give an example of how much is in Create, this whole page here, plus this little bit up here, is all that there is for physical items in the game, but it doesn't mean that it's limited to very much in its application. So, things that you can find. The different stones. There's dolomite, gabbro, limestone, weathered limestone, scoria, zinc ore, and copper ore, and these are the different types you can find. The first ones here are all stones, and they can be used. If you look in here, you've got like some different vanilla versions as well, like your granite stuff and so on. You can create them in all sorts of different ways for wonderful aesthetics. The color palette and everything is really nice on it. In fact, I've even got a little bit of it on the house over here. You can see I've got some vines climbing up the back. It's really nice. Anyway, moving on. Other things. Scoria. This, by itself, if you mine it up, looks kind of like this. Rather kind of mundane. But if you find it naturally in the world or harvest it with Silk Touch, you can therefore get this like rainbow effect. And it's even more pronounced the bigger area that you use it in. So it can be very beautiful for many a build. If you're curious about where to find these things, I have all the information here listed on these boards so you can locate them better. And if you need zinc and or copper for individual use or to use them to make alloys like brass, you can therefore find them in these locations here. Now, you will find a little bit more zinc in the desert than you would in other biomes, and the copper, you'll find it differently in oceans. I think in your regular biomes it's like 1 to 15, and then in oceans it's like 4 to 12 or something, groups of something around there. I might be a little bit off on those numbers, but you get the idea. It is findable just about everywhere in the overworld. All these are overworld items. They're not in the nether. This looks like it's nether, but you'll probably find it down by lava levels in most cases. But the copper, you notice here it's kind of a green. It's actually going to show up most likely like this little pink color here, kind of reddish. Over time, when it's exposed to air, it will oxidize, as copper does, and it will start turning darker and darker, and then eventually start turning into like a greenish shade, and then start lightening to this. So you can use it for many different color aesthetics. As you look here, you've got like some copper shingles. Over time, those will turn into like a green patina. It's very nice, and I recommend you check those out. So now that you know about some of the new, well, and or old items world gen that you might find, let's get into how you can start and progress with Create. Now there's many different ways that you can go everywhere in Create, but I will give you some of the basics on what you need to first do. First thing you want to create here is an andesite alloy, which you can use andesite for it. That's pretty much what you're going to be needing. It's kind of required. So save your andesite for some of these things because it's going to be your building block for almost everything to start with that is Create. Then you'll need either zinc, which I highly recommend you just hang on to those for brass when you need it, or iron nuggets to make the andesite alloy. What can you do with that? Well, you can make shafts. Shafts, shut your mouth, is going to be, just a couple of these will make 8 of them, and that'll last you quite a bit, probably enough for your first build if you so desire. So if you're a little short on andesite, you can just get away with that. But don't be afraid to kind of splurge on it, because you're going to need to make things like this. Cogwheels, 1 andesite, a bunch of buttons, gets you 8 little tiny cogwheels, and then there's the big ones, the large ones here. And you can see we've got buttons and planks. On that, we'll just make bigger cogwheels, get a couple out of that. You just need to do probably just 1 crafting of these in most cases to start off with, for some of your early inventions and whatnot. Now, something you should know about how this functions that I did mention in my previous bit by bits, and that's the tooltips of Create are fabulous. If you hold your mouse over any of these items, whether they be in your inventory or in your JEI, Just Enough Items menu, which by the way, this up here, this identifier that I have is currently the 1 probe. But if you hold your mouse over this and press, as it says here, Shift, it will then give you all sorts of stats and information on it. In some cases, it might actually say something like hold Control. There we go, Shift for one bunch of information or Control for another. This eliminates you needing to have any kind of instruction manual or even listen to my voice here on a bit by bit. You can do this all on your own. But hey, I know you're here just so you can get the skinny on it. So let's continue on. Beyond that, you're going to want to make andesite casings. You don't need many, same as before, probably just at least going to need 1, or in this case, 4. I didn't intend for that to rhyme, but it did. So there. Now, you'll be making some of those because you need this to start with, a mechanical press. And that is what I have here in front of me. It is currently pressing iron ingots into iron plates. So let's look at the recipe for this. It requires andesite casing, some cogwheels, andesite alloys. Now you see why I'm telling you these are the things that you need to progress with and get a bunch of them. It does require a block of iron. I'm just giving you an idea of what the investment is to start with in most cases. Yes, mod packs can change these recipes, but I don't think that they're that bad. So it's unlikely that they'll be changed very much. Once you've got a mechanical press, you're probably going to want to move into something more along the lines of 1 of 2 avenues. Now, there are many ways that you can go, but you're going to need to power this mechanical press with some kind of rotational force, and that's going to be in the form of either a water wheel or a windmill. Now, a water wheel is much more space saving and a lot cheaper. In fact, let's grab one of these here. You can see the recipe here. It's just some planks around a large cogwheel. So you already have most of those if you created a large cogwheel. Whereas the windmill will require a few different things. It will require a mechanical bearing. Here, let me actually turn this thing off. There we go. It'll need a mechanical bearing for one. Let's grab this here, which it's going to be some andesite alloy, some casing, a turntable, which is a slab on a shaft and stuff, as well as, see, I can't fly through that anymore. A radial chassis, and that is going to be made from a little bit of andesite alloy and some logs, and you get 3 of those things. And you can use either of those. This one's going to, in the long run, be able to create a lot more possibility, but only if you have a whole bunch of wool at hand. If you don't, you might as well start with a water wheel. I mean, seriously, it's not going to really get you very far, but it'll get you to start where you need to. If you don't have any intention of doing a windmill, then don't bother. You can go in with some other options later on down the line. You can just start off with the water wheel and get it going like this and so on. Oh, by the way, the andesite casing, that's what these are here. They all have connected textures built in. It's really nice. So you can just, use them to design and build with as well. You're gonna have them just look really cool as some kind of crate in your builds. Oh, it's just beautiful. But anyway, let me actually get a little bit of water here so that I can show you what I'm about to show you. So first, let's get rid of the water here. And you can see I have placed a water wheel, and I have a C shape of blocks around it. So you don't even need to have an iron bucket. You can feasibly just find some water out in the world and dig yourself a C shape and have it so that if the water flows, it will actually catch on the petals. If you have it backwards, like I did in my previous bit-by-bit videos, yes, I'm a doof and I make mistakes too, then it'll go a lot slower. You want it to go as fast as it can because it's going to need to. One of these can power one mechanical press. So you have this flowing here. You can see the water goes all the way around it. Here, I'll do that again with a little bit better of a view so you guys can see it. There we go. You can see it just kind of flows all the way around the water wheel, pushing against the paddles, and there you go. Voila. C'est fini. That's it. You've got your water wheel flowing. Then you take some of your shafts, you plug it in on one of the sides that are sticking out here. As you can see here, I have one sticking out there. Then you take your mechanical press, plunk it down in place, and you're good to go. Now this case, this isn't going to actually work because it has something on there. And this whole thing stopped as well. That's probably my problem. Let's keep this going because I had the windmill powering this. But if you are to continue with this, you know, obviously you can therefore start making plates, which are important because plates are going to be used, whether they or sheets, excuse me. Sheets are going to be used in almost everything, whether they be gold, whether they be brass, whether they be, you know, zinc or copper or iron in this case. So it's going to be very important that you get access to a mechanical press. Now you could leave this and then you've got a permanent way of doing it. If you don't have some kind of mechanical belt, which by the way is just made from some dried kelp out in the world and that gets you one, then you don't even have to have it. You can just place it down. For instance, let's take this out. We'll extend this out another block and we'll put that there. So how do I get this to work? Well, let's just grab myself one of these iron ingots, which yes, you can stand on these conveyors now. They will push you, press sneak, and you can, you know, escape off of them, but only if you press sneak. And you can just right click to grab stuff off of them. You won't pick them up just by walking on it anymore, which I think is fabulous. Beautiful way of doing it. But if you don't have any kind of conveyor system hooked up, you just throw one of these down, then you get yourself good old-fashioned lever, and you smack it with that. Done. And you've got yourself your plates as you need to. So that is one quick and easy way of starting off early game if you don't have any kind of automated system. You can just do that. And then you can get all fancy with conveyor belts and stuff later on, which if you want to know how to do those, again, you just have to have some two shafts at either horizontal to each other, vertical to each other, in other words, right above them, or in some kind of angle. So for example, I could take this one to here. I could also take this one to here, take this one to here, you know, going up and down like this, break that, and I could even go diagonal, but only if there's enough space for it. In this case, I don't, it's set a little bit too far back. Hold on a second, let me fix that. There we go. There you go. And you now have like a diagonal. And then if you want, you can also have more of these continuing on. You can have them powering each other. By connecting these together, they don't decrease any kind of power in this stuff. So there you go. I've got like multiple setups and whatnot. It's crazy what you can do with this. Let me just remove a bunch of this now. And in fact, I'm going to put this thing back in place so that it can actually continue with making these. Though it's kind of plugged because I've got this. There we go. Oh, that didn't work. There we go. That should work now. It's just going to grab everything off of here. All right, so what to do next? Let's try and comprehend how this stuff works, because I will show you the windmill, and then I'll show you some fans, and we'll get into that stuff in a moment, but it's going to get a bit more complex. So let's understand the network. You can make speedometers and stressometers now. What the heck are these for? Well, just as you might think, a speedometer tells you the speed that something will go at. Yes, you can check out the tooltips for it. Recipe for it is to make a stressometer first and then craft that. If you can only have enough materials to make one or the other, just make the stressometer, because the speedometer is just a nice to know. And the stressometer, as you can see here, it is at full stress, is the next most important thing. Now, if you make these, you can also probably make those, because the stressometer, oh wait, there we go. You can convert them back and forth. Is made, it's the speedometers first made, as so, compass, some shafts and stuff, really simple. But if you can make those, I highly recommend you make engineer's goggles and a wrench. What are these good for? Well, the engineer's goggles, as it says here, basically will let you see everything that's going on. You can, oh, look at that. I now have really detailed information. You can see gauge information, rotation speed. You can see the network stress and the remaining capacity. None. So you can't actually add anything more onto here without it kind of breaking, unless it doesn't stress the system at all, which there are some things that do that don't stress the system. And this is a maximum of 15 RPMs right now. I think it might actually be able to go up to 16. I don't know. Maybe that is the maximum. I think it is. But either way, this is information that you need to know. So that's what the goggles can do. They don't really do much else besides that. I mean, they are just very useful. So the wrench in itself, it's good for rotating blocks. I don't think that I can do that on this. But let's say that I wanted to do this. I could switch it to face in a different direction, I believe. Yeah, there we go. I just click on a different side and it'll rotate and change things up. Or if I wanted to, now I'm in creative, so it's just going to break the block. But if I get out of creative and then I sneak right click, I instantly break the item and it goes back into my inventory. I now have 2 mechanical press in my inventory. Now I'm going to go back into creative just so I can fly around a little quicker. What else can it do? It can basically just modify almost everything. It has a lot of information on it. I recommend you do it. Rotate, dismantle, and configure components, as well as, you can disassemble kinetic components, etc. It's got a ton of options you can do there, but you're probably going to need these tools. They're not necessarily cheap because they require sheets, and this is why you also needed to progress with this. 3 gold sheets will make that, and then your engineer's goggles will be another gold sheet and some glass. They're not too expensive, but they are going to be invaluable tools later on, especially the goggles in my mind, because once you've got the goggles on, you can start seeing everything. The stress impact. Wait, what? We've got stress impact 8 SU. What is an SU? That's a stress unit. This is something you need to know. This is why you have the goggles on, so I can explain to you how networks work. Now, in this case, stress impact. This unit, the mechanical press, has 8 stress units that it will generate. 120 stress units at the current speed. So that means that it can be increased or decreased in speed values, which will be discussed in a later video. But that is, just pay attention to the light blue, the top area, 8 SU base value. That is what that is required to run. Basically, that's power units if you want to think about it in one way. So this system here, it actually generates that. Here, let me turn this off. I think I've got a lever in my inventory. We're going to turn that off. It is not turning off because I don't have that turn offable. There we go. It's turned off. I just broke it. So if you look here, the capacity for a water wheel is 8 SU. You could probably just look at the water wheel and it might actually tell you that. Yep. Generator stats, stress capacity, 8 SU. So it's the same as that mechanical press that I just broke. So if you want to see how your network is doing, and I'm stuck on the conveyor again, I just did that by accident. There we go. You can always use these to figure that out. So any more additions onto this won't work. I could usually extend things out by doing this, but you can see it now breaks. And it says here, oh, it's not going to work. Overstressed. It appears that this contraption is overstressed. Add more sources or slow down the components with a high stress impact. So you could add in more of the water wheels. And then, you could extend these out. For instance, you could have, well, actually, just like I had, you could have 2 of these here. You could have another water wheel on this opposite side here generating. You could have another water wheel right here that is generating at the same time. You could have multiples of them so that you could increase the amount of stress units you can generate and use for your kind of system power as it is. And the speed just kind of tells you how fast something is going, because there are ways of changing your speed levels in this mod. For example, let me run down here. This is more complex stuff, and I don't know that I can actually access it. Now, I don't have it turned on so that I can. But if you look down here, I have 32 going right now. That's the speed of this belt. So if I want it to actually go faster, or slower rather, here, I'll slow it down. It's now going at a snail's pace. But then I could also speed it up, go up to 80. Yeah, stuff's going to go super fast. But, you know, this is just giving you an idea of what the speeds represent in there. You don't always have to have the speed one, but I do recommend you install stress units. How do you install these? You just place them on the end of some kind of shaft that is currently rotating. And that's the thing, though, is that by putting this down, you'll see the information about it, but it's only for where it's connected. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be what it is everywhere. So, for example, let's put this here. Network stress 30.94 SU. And this is hooked up to a contraption that comes down here and essentially is running this conveyor belt. Up here, let's look at this one. 495 SU out of 990 and 990. Yeah, there's a big difference. What the heck? It's because I've been messing around with the speed, different settings like that. So at different locations, it'll be important. Yes, you can pick these up with your wrench and you can just replace it as you need to. So you don't have to have one everywhere, though it tends to just help in general. But you can take this with you and then just place it down, see what it is, what the stats are, so that you can tweak things up or down as you want. So now that you understand, perhaps, at least I hope you better understand it a little bit about how the stresses work by adding more units to it that generate power, that can generate stress units or has stress capacity. Therefore, you can expand your the amount that you can use for other contraptions. So, how do you make some of the other items? We've got here a windmill. Let's turn this off for a second. This, as I said before, consists of, let me get the items here, the mechanical bearing and a radial chassis. So, I'm going to create this on the ground here. Let's do this and then one here. So, if you notice here, by me right-clicking, it places it so that it's facing me. If I sneak right-click, it will reverse place. This is the same with most of the blocks, just a heads up. But this is the mechanical bearing. This is a pivotal part. And it tells you even on here that it starts rotating attached blocks using chassis or slime blocks to move more than a single block, but it also will harness rotational force from wind. And that is what you're going to need. But on top of that, you're going to need one of these, or at least, a radial chassis. Plonk that on the tip, and you're good to go. Yes, you can extend it further, but for now, I'm not going to bother. I will need some wool of some sort to use this to generate power. I can put it on the side, but it's not going to be as useful as you might think. Let me actually put a lever here and click, and nothing happens. Let me get some slime, and I will show you why this is happening the way it is. Put a piece here. I'll put that there. And you can see it's rotating, but only the side that I use the slime on. That's the problem. You need to have it sticky. So if you only have a couple pieces of slime and you want to, use all of these, there's multiple ways of doing this. One, you can actually have them connect. So they are connected. It's sticky and attached here, and therefore it'll rotate the entire thing, right? There you go. Cool. So one way of doing it is having everything touch. But let's say I want to have a windmill that actually has 4 equal sides to it, like this. There's not a problem with that. Okay, well, I don't have enough slime balls. I only have 2. That's all right. You can actually, and I just changed something in there. I will show you in a second what that does. You can actually, and I will just show you here, even though I'm in creative, it works in survival as well. Just click twice. And it'll automatically stickify everything on there. It's just a really convenient thing. Now everything is sticky on all the sides. Pretty neat. So, how do I make this work? With your wrench, you'll notice, oh boy, I am going to cause so much problem with this. But let's mess around with this and see what happens. Oh boy, this is not the windmill I signed up for. That's okay. It's okay, we can fix this, right? This is what the wrench is for. By looking at this, it then says radius scroll. So you just scroll it down and you'll notice the blocks are getting less and less and less until you can just rotate 1 block, 2 block radius. So that's 2 blocks out from the center. that's kind of how that works. And yes, you can attach those to other blocks and so on. But for now, I'll look away from that before I roll my mouse. You can click, and because it has wool blocks, it will start rotating. The more wool blocks in the radius, the faster it will rotate, the more rotational force it generates. This has 512 stress units. It is a very stress unit item, or it can take a lot of stress. How's that? You notice it's 512 at the current speed. It's not going to be adjustable for its speed, but you can then add in speed adjusters later on. With this in mind, you can then take your shaft or whatever else you need to, and you can see it's just that there you go. You now have rotational force, just like the water wheel. It doesn't look like it's going as fast, but 512 stress units versus this was what? I think it was, can I even look in there? 8 stress units, but still, that's really cheap and not as gaudy as this. Now, here's the bonus on this is that, well, let's say I want to make my windmill look prettier. Let's get some fences in here. And I'm just using this as an example. It doesn't have to be this. We can do a couple of these, and then one here, and then one here, and you've got your traditional, more traditional looking. It's a miniature version of a windmill, but there you go. And it's spinning around. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. It works with other types of blocks as well. Wool is just the only one that will generate rotational force. So if I take this off, and then I connect these with something like, we'll just connect a few of these with wood. So let's just put some wood fencing around here. You saw it's spinning before with wood fence, right? Doesn't work now. It only works with wool. So therefore that is, or for generating rotational force at least. That's how that one works. Other methods that you can generate rotational force. Probably the next step is going to be fans, encased fans in this case. They are made with propellers, which you will need, iron sheets from. It's not so bad. And you put them above a heat source, whether it be lava, netherrack with fire burning forever, or a campfire. It will still generate rotational force. 32 stress units, 512 at current speed. And you can see here about 16 RPMs. So it's a little bit more than this, and they're generating a lot more stress units in this case. So 32 is really good. They're very compact compared to the other units. Look how big this thing is. It's just ridiculous. And it's generating 512. I think I've been able to get up to like 8,000 or something off of a windmill, but it's really big and gaudy. Anyway, each one of these ones, whether it be campfire, netherrack, or lava, all generate the same. Rotational speed or stress or anything like that. They're all the same generators, but they do require a lever in order to start generating it, and they have to be facing down. So you can see here, if I were to place a fan, the fan is on one side, and there's a spot for it to connect at the back. So that is one way of doing it. You can also use these elsewhere on your contraption. Let's say that this is connected to it. You could then have it like blowing air through something and so on, and therefore create baking effects or cooling effects by blowing things through water and smoking things and so on. But that is another way that you can therefore generate some rotational force for your different contraptions. There is one more that I am currently aware of, and that is the flywheel, which is only used with an engine right here, a furnace engine. So you plug in a furnace engine on a furnace and strap a flywheel up to that, and as things get cooked in the furnace, it generates heat and a rotational force, and you can come off of that. Pretty darn cool. But yeah, I think that this is going to be a really basic way for you to actually get your start on Create in its current version. Yes, it may change in the future. I'm putting updates on the names so that you guys can hopefully figure out which one is which and better suit it to what it is that you might need. Anyway, Hope you guys have enjoyed this bit by bit on Create. If so, please be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, be sure to come visit us on Twitch, and don't forget to spread the mischief to others. It always helps our channel grow. Until next time, folks, I'll see ya.